Welcome everyone to the Drag Racing Central race recap from the NHRA Route 66 Nationals. What a race. This is definitely race of the year. We'll get more into that later. But let's start off this recap with Top Fuel. In Top Fuel, what a crazy day it was in Top Fuel. It was Clay Millican getting his first win in over 5 years. It's crazy to think it's been 5 years since Clay Millican's won something. But let's go ahead and take a look at his road to the finals.
Fuel, we're back. Sean Langdon drives into tire smoke, and Clay Millican goes from the outside to round number 2. 49 career wins in the Alan Johnson, Brian Houston tuned machine. Final pair, round 2, Top Fuel. Millican off the line first, dug into tire smoke, and Clay Millican is heading to the semifinals for the first time in 2023. It's Josh Hart in the finals. It is Clay leaving first. And it is Clay Millican taking Rick Ware Racing to their first final round. In their first final round. It is Millican off the line first. And it is Millican back on top. 381, 328 miles per hour. Clay Millican delivers Rick.
In Top Fuel, we had a lot of storylines this weekend. TJ Zizzo upsetting the #1 qualifier, Mike Slaney, and TJ Zizzo making it to the semifinals in his first appearance in over 3 years. That's pretty impressive for TJ Zizzo's return with a new chassis, new parts from what I know, so that team is definitely on the up and swing. Not that they already weren't, because they were already pretty competitive when they were out here before. But Clay Millican, a lot of the big teams struggled today. A lot of the bigger teams that you're used to seeing up there doing good struggled today. They could not get a hand on the track. The track was really tricky, and I like that. I love tricky racetracks. It's the best type of racing to watch is a tricky racetrack, because you never know who's going to win. And Clay Millican showed that today. Clay Millican, I mean, let's just start with talking about Clay Millican. We all know, I think it can't be debated that Clay Millican's the most recognizable top field driver out there. If you ignore the Tony Stewart Racing guys, because they obviously have their NASCAR fame, like the most pure NHRA driver that's most recognized, it has to be Clay Millican. Has to be Clay Millican. Because his YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you're watching this and you don't watch Clay Millican's YouTube channel, what are you doing? You definitely need to be watching it. But Clay Millican, I think he stands for something bigger than just... I think this win stands for something much bigger than just him winning. It stands for what I hope to become the next generation of nitro racing, is that I always hear drivers and I always hear people saying that the NHRA doesn't promote the drivers enough. And you're kind of right. They don't. They could do a lot better. But also the drivers need to promote themselves too. They need to want themselves to. And Clay Millican is the only one out there doing that. I cannot see another nitro driver, funny car and top field, that's putting in the work like Clay Millican's putting in. And it paid off. The social media response yesterday was crazy. It was absolutely crazy for Clay Millican winning. Like, if any other driver wins, let's just say Justin Ashley. If Justin Ashley wins, you do not get that fan response. Like, 90% of people don't care. And it's not that people don't like Justin Ashley. He's just not, doesn't have that personality. He didn't promote his brand as much as Clay Millican does. And Clay Millican's going to get that fan response because of it. And it's sad that Clay Millican isn't as competitive as he should be all the time, which I hope this is the start of a turnaround for that team, because we need Clay Millican in the winner's circle more. The more Clay Millican can win, the better it is for NHRA, the better it is for the sport, because Clay Millican, he's like one of the few personalities left in Top Fuel. Not to say that there's not any others, but like listen to Clay Millican's interview and you listen to anyone else's interview, you know, like you kind of get a different persona out of it. Like you actually feel like you're connected to someone. Whereas with any other driver, it's just, thank my sponsor, blah, 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 and let's just leave. But like Clay Millican, he's like the only one that actually showed some emotion out of that interview. So that's it for Top Fuel. Let's take a look into Nitro Funny Car. Again, continuing with the theme of craziness this weekend, Tim Wilkerson gets the win in Funny Car. It's been a while since I've said that Tim Wilkerson got the win in something. But Tim Wilkerson got the win in Nitro Funny Car. Let's take a look at his road to the finals.
Where he qualified, doesn't really matter. Great drag race. And a win light for Tim Wilkerson, 3.980, 316 miles per hour. And the folks at Skag, and that is an Illinois driver on the left side. Wilkerson off the line first. Wilkerson going to the semis, 4:01 in Funny Car is ready. John Force smokes the tires, and at their home race, Tim Wilkerson is heading to a final round. Starting line advantage to Ron Capps, and a parachute comes out. Tim Wilkerson will win it in Joliet, 396, 325 miles per hour.
So your Nitro Funny Car winner, Tim Wilkerson. How about it? I did not expect that going into this weekend. I was not expecting a Tim Wilkerson win this early. But Tim Wilkerson walks away with the Wally, and same thing in Top Fuel. A lot of big teams struggled. A lot of the big teams struggled. Alex Laughlin beating Matt Hagan round one. Like, there's a lot of prime examples of where the big teams did not do good this weekend. Ron Capps is like the only like major big team I could think of that did really, really well this weekend. And he was going to win that final if the parachute did not deploy. Which, I mean, don't really put too much thought into that. They'll be back in a couple of weeks. It was probably something malfunctional on the car that caused that. But Tim Wilkerson, I mean, I did not expect the whole Skag. I knew when Wilkerson went to Skag and Maynard, he was going to become a little bit more competitive, but I did not think he would become like this competitive this early. But let's kind of reiterate that this is a hot racetrack, and this is not going to, like, I don't think he's going to go out there and win the championship or be in contention for the championship, simply because of that. Yes, he can do good on the hot weather racetrack, but let's be real, the only races that really matter now are the countdown races, and he hasn't really been doing that great in the cooler conditions when the top guys are running 380s and he's running 390s. Like, you have to be able to you have to put down those 380 runs when you can. You have to be a 380 car in Funny Car to win a championship. That's just that's just how I feel. I believe you're going to have to be a 380 car to win the championship. But Tim Wilkerson, I have a feeling he will be a threat in these summer races, especially if you look towards the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenges, which could bump him up in the standings, because those Too Fast, Too Tasty challenges do award countdown points. And it could be argued, and I know people are going to disagree with me here, it could be argued that the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge wins mean more than the actual Sunday wins, because the Sunday wins don't give you bonus points in the countdown. The Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge wins do. So it could definitely be argued that those wins are much more important than the actual win on Sunday. So if Tim Wilkerson can get into the semifinals consistently and during the summer and start racking up these Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge points, you could definitely see him in a higher position in the countdown. But I do not think he's going to win the championship simply because the car hasn't been performing as good as the bigger teams have in the cooler conditions. But Tim Wilkerson, I mean, what a good story. Everyone likes Tim Wilkerson. I don't know someone who doesn't like Tim Wilkerson. So congrats to Tim Wilkerson, and that's it for Funny Car. Let's go into our final thoughts of the NHRA Route 66 Nationals. Some final thoughts on this weekend's NHRA Route 66 Nationals. Of course, this is NHRA's first return to Route 66 Raceway in over 4 years, so I feel we gotta mention that a little bit. The crowd was okay. They did block off the part of the other side of the grandstands, but they did actually open up part of it because the demand was so high for tickets and all that. Now, I mean, I'm glad the fans showed up as they did. You have to remember, fans were clamoring for this track to be brought back. And everything I always say, like when fans say they want something, they better put their money where their mouth is and show up. And they certainly did. They put their money where their mouth is. They packed those grandstands all day long. Even when Sportsman was running, those stands were still packed. So congrats to the Joliet fan base and the Chicago area fan base for packing their racetrack and putting on a good crowd for the drivers to race in front of. But Route 66 Raceway, it proved to be a tricky track at this time of year, but we also have to keep in mind they did not run on this track in over 4 years. So that is something to play in mind. Does Route 66 return? I don't see how it doesn't. I mean, I don't think NHRA would have returned here with the mindset of them not going back. So I don't see how this track doesn't get on the schedule next year. But we'll see. I mean, a lot can change. I didn't think this track would ever leave the schedule. I never thought it could. But with NASCAR and all that doing their stuff to their schedule, then it ended up happening. So we'll see what happens to Route 66. But I do feel I have to mention this. This was announced like right after the final rounds. Camping World, the title sponsor, the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series, announced they are leaving after 2024. Now, this is not like something. This is not news you want to hear, especially after a race weekend like this. This is not news you want to hear. But I mean, Camping World, they saved NHRA when we needed them most. NHRA was in a desperate situation in 2020 during the pandemic, and Camping World kind of saved them. Without Camping World, I doubt we see an NHRA right now, at least the way it is now. So we do have to thank Camping World. Even if they don't want to renew, we still have to thank Camping World for all they've done for the sport. But I mean, what sponsor takes their place? Does the sponsor take their place? Does the area of Camping World drag racing look the same? We don't know. I mean, my prediction, at least from like all this time in advance, my prediction is I think the days of full title sponsorships are over. I think you're gonna see individual class sponsorship, like for example, Top Fuel presented by Skag or Funny Car presented by Pep Boys or something like that. You'll probably end up seeing something like that instead of like a full-on sponsorship over the whole series, which I'd be all for that. I mean, I feel like it would give more like the sponsor could have more control over their class and maybe do more marketing for that class. Which is also something I do want to talk about. Camping World did not really put up the best of efforts in their like cross promotion with NASCAR. Because when this was first announced, I remember in the fan base we were like, "Oh, they're going to cross promote with NASCAR, yada yada yada," and none of that was ever really done. And they're at the track promotion. Like, if it wasn't for the Camping World banners everywhere, you wouldn't know that the series was sponsored by Camping World. It was kind of like lackluster at the track. So that's going to be it. That's my thoughts from this weekend's Route 66 Nationals from Joliet, Illinois. And we will see you guys in the next one, which will be at Epping, New Hampshire, New England Nationals. One of my favorite races of the year, without a doubt. NHRA, please never take Epping off the schedule. And we will see you guys in the next one.